I am not the fiction. I'm a living woman, which means they can only take action against the fiction, not against you. What they do is legal, it's fine. It's all trade and commerce. But they turn you into a product, into a tradable product. You're all, wait a minute, how do they do that? Are we following it so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see where the fraud is. How many of you have heard of a birth certificate? Okay, have you heard it's an illegal document, it's fraudulent? Guess what? It's totally legal. Absolutely, totally legal. Oh, wait a minute, what's going on? So let's explain what happens with a birth certificate. When you are in the womb, I look like I've got a baby in the womb already, to see well. You've got the baby, the umbilical cord, and the placenta. Does everyone follow that? Yeah? It's all the same DNA. Half of it comes from the mother, half of it comes from the father. The egg gets fertilised, blah, 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 it grows. But it's all the same property. And it's a different DNA to the mother. She's the carrier, she's the vessel. Same DNA, baby. Placenta, umbilical cord, and wait for my brilliant artwork. Baby. You could tell I was brilliant at school.
I don't know what that
Alright. So it's all the same DNA. So in this circumstance, the baby derives everything it needs from the placenta. All the nutrients, everything it needs to grow, and all the crap's taken. We call that the beneficiary. Oh, we've heard that term. You're the beneficiary of something. You're the beneficiary of a will. So the baby is the beneficiary of the placenta. Now, what happens when the baby's born? Okay, note this here. The baby is born. Because the terminology is important here. Let me just... I forgot something. The Vatican is claiming your soul, right? S-O-U-L.
Comes down the canal.
Comes down, well, they call it the birth canal and all of that.
Nautical terms.
Nautical terms. But it actually applies to something different.
Oh, contractions.
No. Don't jump ahead. I love the way you're thinking. But, yeah, you're going to get this. It's really simple. The baby is born. Ladies, what happens next? Sorry? It cries. Why does it cry? Why is it in pain?
trauma.
My kids were never in pain because they were in trauma. Baby's birthed. Along comes the doctor or the midwife and does cuts the umbilical cord. That is called severance. Because this is a property. And when you sever a property, you automatically create a trust. Because who's going to own which bit? It's what happens in divorces. The property gets separated. It all goes into a trust account because it's already been in a trust account, which I'll get to later. So, Bub's over here. What happens to Bub next? Bub gets weighed. Weighed. And why is Bub weighed?
Determine how much gold gets put into the assessed weight code of their trust.
No.
Worth their weight in gold.
They're worth their weight in gold. Okay? Bub gets weighed. What else happens to Bub?
Pinprint
Measure.
on their heels.
You're close. Something to do with the foot. What happens?
Oh, the print.
The what print?
The footprint.
No. The soul print.
Soul.
Remember they play with words. S-O-L-E. They do that. But what happens next to Bub? She's handed to Mum and what Mum says, oh, this is my beautiful baby. Keep going.
LBGQ.
No.
No.
she gives it
A name.
a name. And we're going to call her Mary Jane. She says, this is my beautiful baby daughter, Mary Jane. Now, why does she do this? Because in the Bible, what did Adam do to get dominion over every living thing on the planet? He named it. So the mum gets dominion over the baby because she names it. She owns it. She owns the baby and everything that it's worth.
So what do you call a grantor?
She's a grantor. She's the owner. So all of that's done. And Mum's gone, oh, thank God that's over. Midwife says, oh, no, love, there's something you have to do now. What's that? Birth the placenta. Okay? You have to birth the placenta. See, the baby is born. The placenta is birthed. See, they're playing around with stuff here because it's come down the birth canal and everything. And when the placenta comes out, is it breathing? No. Does it have a pulse? And we call that dead. Right? But if it's been birthed, it's stillborn. Because it doesn't breathe. The placenta is stillborn. So what do we do with the placenta?
Take it and retreat.
Some people do. What happens in hospitals in 99.99% of cases? What does the mother do to the placenta?
I've got to take one.
Gives it away.
But you must have asked to do that.
He was born in Queensland, so in Queensland is allowed to take the placenta.
You're allowed to, but you have to indicate it in
They
what?
asked me, yeah.
Yeah, they ask you and you said yes. But if you go no, what happens?
Throw
Throw it away. Guess what? It's abandoned. And under maritime law, if something's abandoned, it can be salvaged. So they salvage the placenta. Who owns the placenta? The state owns it because they have salvaged it. What do they do with it next?
Well, make money.
How do they make money?
Lots of ways. But yeah,
What's the first thing they do to the placenta?
well, stem cell.
Yes, stem cell.
Well, they can use it for that, but before they even do that, they've got it in the room. It's right there. What do they do to Bub?
Wait.
Weigh it. Why do they weigh the placenta?
Worth money.
It's worth its
Gold.
weight in gold. Worth its weight in gold. Now let's say the placenta weighs half of the baby. It's actually more than that. I don't know if ladies know that. Usually it's a big thing. But Bub was 10 pounds. Healthy baby, 10 pounds. The placenta's only 5 pounds. 5 pounds is how many ounces? 5 times 16? 16 ounces in a pound. Only us old folk will remember that version.
60.
5 times 16, it's 5 times 6 is 30, it's 80. 80 ounces. The placenta weighs 80 ounces. What's the price of gold at the moment?
3,000.
$3,000 an ounce. What's 80 times 3,000? 240,000. So the placenta, which is owned by the state, is worth $240,000. What do they do next to it? What did Mum do? What did Adam do? Named it.
Oh, you bought yourself.
They name it. And they name it Mary Jane Smith.
All caps.
All caps. They add a surname to it.
Which is short for?
Surname is Old Latin for
Surety.
name put on. Surname, name put on. So they put this name on to bring it under their jurisdiction. It later can be used as a surety, but the surname means name put on. In other words, it's nothing to do with Bub. So now they've got a property that they own that's worth money. If you set up a business and you create a product and you want to market it around the world, what market do you put it on?
Stock market.
The stock market. Because it's a product. And you want to trade it on the stock market. And when you first put it on the stock market, it's worth $280,000 a share. And they go, oh, wait a minute, we're going to do a little bit more with this. We're going to create trust account, because that's what we can create. We're going to create a trust account for when it's on the land. We're going to create a trust account for when it's on or in the air. And we're going to create a trust account for when it's on or in the water. They create 3 trust accounts. Okay? What's the first letter of those words spelled? That's where law comes from. Because they play with words. What's in our world? L-O-R-D. When we talk about law, we're talking about what we pass on through our spoken word. That's law. So they play around with it. L-A-W. Trust, they're the different jurisdictions. And in land, it's property. In air, it's trust accounts and ecclesiastical bits and pieces. And water is admiralty maritime jurisdiction. They're the 3 jurisdictions they play under. No one ever tells you that. We go, wait a minute, what? No one's told me that that capital lettered name that I thought was me for ages and ages and ages is actually my placenta. So how do they control you? They enrol you into school and they enrol the surname. So you'll think you're the surname. You go to get a drive-up licence. They take a picture of you, they add the surname to it, because they're wanting you to pay all the bills that they accumulate through this. Does that sound fair? No.
It's actually broken the law, maxims of law, dissimilar things are not to be joined. You've got your Christian names being joined with your surname, they've just broken the law.
Yeah, absolutely. But you remember up there I wrote, who does not deny admits. It means if you don't pull them up on it, you've allowed it to happen.
An error that's not resisted or opposed is approved. It's another maxim.
They don't tell you. So do we understand that the birth certificate, right, and this is all recorded on a birth certificate.
What gives birth? Vessels.
Well, if you go into their legislation, it will tell you what birth means. It says birth includes stillbirth. Now, when we're not informed, do we think that means? We think that means, birth includes bub and includes any stillborn bubs. No. Birth includes, there's a maxim of, you might have heard it, Drew will know it, inclusio unius est alterius exclusio, which means includes only means what follows and excludes everything else. So, if I write birth includes stillbirth, what does birth include? It only includes stillborn placentas. It only includes the dead, because their system only involves fictions. It can't include the living bub. They're very tricky in what they put. Birth only includes stillbirth. I've got a copy of one I prepared earlier. Has anyone got a copy of their birth certificate?
Yes.
Okay. It's not your birth certificate.
States.
It's the...
States.
No. It's for the placenta.
Well, what if it's in lowercase?
Has it got a surname?
I think so.
It's got a surname. And here, at the top of that, what does that say?
Victoria, Australia.
Yeah, here, right there.
Birth certificate.
Birth certificate. So this is a certificate that relates to the placenta and can only relate to the placenta.
Is the surname in all capitals?
Doesn't matter if the surname is in all capitals or lowercase. Because the surname only applies to the placenta, not to the living man or woman. Because they've put it on, they've added it. They take it from the name of your parent or whatever. And you don't know it, and they create this, which is their trading agreement. They put the surname in because that's the name that they named the placenta. But the title of the document, birth, relates to the placenta. Certificate is a document of ownership. Ownership of the dead entity, i.e. the placenta. That's what this document is. And it says here up in the very, very top, and it's got stuff in boxes, which actually doesn't belong to this at all. Anything that's in a box comes under the 4 square rule, which means it's not part of the document.
It's not on the page.
It's not on the page at all. Which means they can put anything fraudulent they like in a box and they can't be charged with it because it's not part of the page. You don't know that. So when you get a police fine or a court document or something like that, they put it all in the boxes because they know it's all fraudulent, but they can't be accused of fraud because they say, no, that's not in the box. That's in the box, that's not part of the document. Aren't they clever?
Boxing rule.
Yeah. So what else have we got on here that we might want to have a look at? In the top box, it's got CHILD. What's that say? No, so you're thinking English. They do everything in Latin. And in Latin, CH is pronounced K. What does it read now?
Killed.
Killed.
Hey.
Killed. They're just confirming that if you say that you have children, you have dead entities, and who owns the dead entity? The state. How many of you are parents? Oh dear, there's another misnomer. Do you know this one? Rent. You are renting the property from the state. This is why the state can come in and take your children away because they're not your children. They're not your born property. You have turned them into a dead entity that the state owns, so they can take your children whenever they want, because you're a parent.
Where's the acquiescence to this fraudulent setup for reality?
He who does not deny.
Yeah, but even
accepts.
that statement is a construct, a linguistic construct.
Ignorance of the law is no defence in the